Hey, I'm here today on My Charmed Life to share on why we heal and create better together. And today I'm going to share a little bit about my personal experience about being in circle and horizontal, non-hierarchical learning, and why I think that's truly the most fruitful place to transform ourselves and live our most charmed life. I think there's a myth floating around that lone wolfing, and it probably came from programming along the way, especially for women, because we know we've been oppressed and we've had to suppress what we've really wanted for our lives. We weren't even really allowed to dream. And I think this myth is really that we should be overly independent and lone wolf it and try to figure everything out on our own. I've seen both my mother and both my grandmothers be super capable. They're able to multitask, able to take care of family and all that comes with family, but also seen and experienced that they lived in a time where their dreams were quite limited, or for both my grandmothers, perhaps not even possible. I'm thinking about my one grandmother who went off to university. She was privileged enough to do that. And what happened was her mother died traumatically in an accident, and she got called back to take care of the family. And she just watched her dreams fade into the background. That was her womanly duty, to come back and replace that role of mother, because the other kids needed support. Probably her dad needed support. And that must have been just so devastating. I can only imagine. Here's this young woman going off to university and college, only to be completely pulled back into that reality that she was supposed to leave. You're supposed to leave the nest as an adolescent and rebel and discover yourself. Our brains are literally wired for this. So all this to say, I think as women, we've gotten almost too independent. And I say that because interdependence and collaboration is so important. It's just the smart way to do things. And especially if we want to leave this world in a better place. And I know you want that for the next generations. We need to collaborate. We need to put our minds together. We need to come up with the best possible solution. If you think of a consensus, if you imagine you sit down into a round table discussion with peers or colleagues, and you're having a discussion where you need to solve a problem, there's something magical about this circle conversation. There is always a consensus that is formed. Not everyone might like it, but there's nodding heads around the table. That's really the magic of coming together and in that circle format again. So I'm excited to talk more about this today. I hope it lights up some inspiration for you. And you can let me know in the comments below. Is lone wolfing kind of your modus operandi? Is this the way you like to operate? Do you kind of hold a badge of honor for being that independent, strong person? And there's nothing wrong with that. And of course, strength and independence is powerful, but how good are you on the flip side of that with collaborating and engaging with others and having witness, right? You share, they witness without trying to fix you, and then they share and you witness without trying to fix them. There's going to be something wonderful that occurs. So I think there's this myth of rugged, let's say, individualism. And we were definitely taught to be strong, self-sufficient, but also silent, right? As women, I think back, I like to tell the story of being in brownies. Were you ever in brownies or Girl Guides? So I was in brownies and I loved brownies. It was amazing. We got to wear these cute little brown dresses and an orange and white scarf, and you had to tie the scarf in a very specific manner around your neck. And then you would go to the meetings, and there was a toadstool in the center, and you would have to say this kind of incantation or a little chant, which started with to wit, to woo, to wit, to woo. When I think back to it, it was really quite esoteric in some ways, which is probably why I was drawn to it. But I recently was in this old bookstore. Do you love going into old bookstores where it smells dusty and there's piles of books and part of the fun is hunting through? I was doing this and came across this one book, which was a brownies manual from, I believe it was 1969, quite far back. And I turned it open, and that one of the first rules, they had these sort of rules that the brownies followed, was to be obedient and to put others before yourself. No! All those to wit to woo meetings were flashing through my eyes, thinking of all the years I did brownies and thinking this was the ethos of what they were training us to be: obedient and essentially silent in our own needs and wants and desires. Now, it's not just brownies. This is just one segment of our culture. This was being reinforced to us everywhere we went, right? Keep it on the inside. We're not expressing our emotions. Don't be hysterical. You know, women have gotten a bad rap for being hysterical or hormonal. How about we just call that expressing, releasing emotions so that we can regulate and feel free? Maybe the problem has been we haven't had skills. Why would we have skills if we're not expressing emotions? We wouldn't have needed skills. So now we're discovering ways as women to open our voice again, to have skills and tools and practice. We're not going to be amazing at it at first. It might come out wrong. You might hurt somebody's feelings, but isn't that worth it? Isn't it worth it to discover how to hone how you use your voice, take a stand for yourself and even for others, even in the face of a backlash of some sort? So I think we're in the process really of learning this. Now, the cost of not using our voice or being in a masculine kind of realm where it's just one man, male slaying the dragon on a mission, women are not of that ilk. The feminine is so much more about community and gathering and supporting, so that the whole, if we go back in time, village would be healing through the meeting of minds of women, right? And so here we are, and we're in this world that wants us to be more masculine, wants us to push more, wants us to stay silent. And what happens? We get sick, we get tired, and burnout happens. There's a cycle of self-doubt. Tell me if this is resonating for you down below. We have stalled creativity because we're doubting we're not in action. And there's this kind of emotional fatigue. It's just this kind of general pent up frustration, anger, potentially even rage. So why am I sharing this? Why am I pointing out the negative? Because something needs to change, right? We are not our grandmothers. We are not our mothers. With each generation, they have done the good work to open things up for us, and we need to open it up even more. We are not there yet. And it starts with ourselves, right? It doesn't come from the outside. It doesn't come from reading all the personal development books. It doesn't come from watching all the YouTube videos. It doesn't come from having every corner of your house filled with crystals. It comes from each of us doing the skillful work. You have to get the skills and tools, ideally, from a teacher, and being in community to then have emotional, intuitive intelligence, and to process through emotions elegantly, and to be able to actually do it quickly. It's kind of this muscle we can flex, and then you're processing so much more quickly. For me, I can process through things what used to take a few weeks or a few months, maybe in 30 seconds. Now that's a skill to really create peace. And it hasn't come from just me going forward with my conditioning, everything I know, that brownie training I got. I've had to learn, right? And circle has been huge. I remember there's this time, this was so long ago now, my early 20s, where a friend of mine invited me to go to an Al-Anon meeting. And Al-Anon is similar to AA. Everyone knows what AA is, right? And so Al-Anon would have family members of addicts of different sorts. So family members that had children or partners or siblings or neighbors that were struggling, and they were learning how to cope, how to work with this, how to continue to thrive even in this circumstance. And at first I thought that was kind of odd that she was even going. I didn't know there was any issue there. And also that she would invite me. And I thought, wow, okay. And she told me the story of how she had actually a lot of addicts in her family. And alcoholism was quite prevalent. And recently my brother had passed away from what we had thought at the time was a possible drug overdose. And so that was the link. That's why she invited me. And I was sort of, trying to understand this. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna go. I have no idea what this is. And honestly, I was thinking, I don't really have that many problems. Little did I know. But we go to the session and we go into this community center with these high ceilings, and we're sitting down. And honestly, I was so nervous because I'm quite shy, and I knew they were going to go around the circle. We would have to talk and introduce ourselves. And that was putting the fear of God into me, and my legs were shaking. And I thought, why am I doing this? I could still remember the anxiety. And we sat down, and I'm sitting next to my friend, next to a stranger. And as people started to share, there's people of all different ages and backgrounds. My heart was opening so wide. And why? Because they were sharing honest, authentic struggles. And there was this kind of tenderness in the room and a deep, deep empathy. And the empathy in and of itself was so moving, how everyone was so engaged, and you could feel this kind of love and understanding flowing like a current really around the circle, and you couldn't help but feel it. And by the time it came around to me, I actually was excited just to be part of this and just kind of open my mouth and let something out. And I came away from that experience thinking, wow, that was so healing in a way that I was not expecting it, with a whole group of strangers. The only person I knew there was my friend. And there was no teaching, there was no books. It was literally witnessing and sharing, and that infinite love pulsing through. This, my friends, is truly the power of circle. It is non-hierarchical, right? There's no guru standing at the front. This is completely horizontal learning. And what made it so magical was everyone was coming because they're acknowledging they don't know everything, and there's a need for support. Basically, by going to that session, you're saying, I could use a little support around this. And so there's an opportunity to receive. Now, I think there's a stigma in our culture around being vulnerable and vulnerability as weakness. Have you ever felt weak for feeling that there's something a little off, or you're struggling, or there's some challenges and scared to admit it, maybe even to yourself. What I have discovered is that vulnerability, I'm sharing some kind of vulnerable stories with you, is actually a superpower. And when I'm sharing vulnerably, what I notice is other people around me start to go to more tender, vulnerable places. And now if we have this vulnerability in the space, something wonderful starts to happen. There's a truth, there's an honesty, and not the illusion or pretending or putting on masks. And this is so, so important, I think, in our world for women and for everybody to feel safe in being seen for who they really are and what they're really going through. I heard an interview on our CBC national radio the other night, and there was a physician talking, and he was saying that mental health issues are so on the rise, and it's just so devastating that the level of mental health has really been just so, it's increasing these problems. And he said the elixir to this is community, feeling that you belong somewhere. Don't we long to belong? I think we all have that, to be with like-minded people. And if you're a woman who's spiritual, I think there's a natural yearning to be with other women who are processing the world and their own emotions together. And not the kind of processing that's gossipy or fluffy, but to go to deeper places together, right? So if you're a spiritual woman who loves to go deep and you're yearning for those conversations, having a place where you feel you belong is so important to your mental health. And I truly believe that. And I've been holding space for Circle for a long, long time now. And I've seen miracles happen. I've seen spontaneous healings or paradigm shifts, these kinds of epiphanies, right? Where there's a breakthrough moment where how we thought reality was all of a sudden shifts. I remember one time in one of our circles inside our Charmed Sisterhood, I asked, a woman was struggling, and I could tell she wasn't quite sure, she had her blinders on. And as the facilitator, part of my job is to sometimes help people take those blinders off to get at the limitations so they can open their heart, open their mind. And so I said, remember, this feeling you're having, what does it remind you of? And she said, well, there's this time when I was a little girl and we were at the store, parked in the car, and my mom got out of the car and she went to go in the store, and the car started rolling backwards. She left it in neutral by accident. And the car went across a main road, and she was sitting there so afraid. She had no control over the situation. Luckily, everything was fine. But it created a massive emotion of feeling unsafe, and your mother, wanting your mother to be the one who protects you, and here she is the one that probably felt like abandoned her in this moment. And this memory surfaced. She wasn't even thinking about it. And so in that moment, I just said, well, what would you want your mom to know? Because at that time, of course, maybe you couldn't use your voice. You were so afraid. And her mom might have even scolded her. I can't remember what the result was exactly right after. And so she went forward and she just expressed in present day as an adult to her mom what she was feeling and how she felt, and got it off her chest in that moment. So what was suppressed in the body and the nervous system all of a sudden had permission to be released. And it was so tangible that day in the circle, and I can still feel it. I want to stand up straighter. I get goosebumps. The healing happened in the moment, right? It came to her awareness through the power of circle, and then through the power of the questions I was asking her, the space I was holding. She could feel safe enough to explore that, to use her voice, to start to just speak it, explore it, not to relive it. And I think that's a problem with talk therapy. It's often you're rehashing and just remembering and almost just reinforcing the wiring of that past event. And that's not what we want to do. But she was just speaking actually what she would have liked to have said to her mom at the time, but because she was so little, she couldn't. So now she's feeling empowered. She is her own protector. It's as though she's remothering herself. So that's just one thing that just came to mind as I was speaking, a memory and the power of being in a loving kindness field, which is what Circle provides, especially when you have a facilitator who's experienced, who's bringing forth skills and tools, and you have the other women there who aren't trying to fix her. No one was trying to fix the problem. We were just all there holding space for the emotion to flow and the release and breakthrough to occur. And, I think if she would have just only come to one circle ever, I don't think that would have happened. She was coming consistently for over a year before that happened. So there's this consistency of showing up time and time again to fertile ground. And the beautiful thing about Circle is sometimes you're just listening. You might be in a Zoom call, you might even have your video off, and you're there and you're super engaged, but maybe you're shy like me and you're not ready to share. You don't have to, because you're getting the frequency from the other women. When this woman told her story about the car rolling backwards, so many of us, I think, were feeling feelings as well, and also getting the release. So we don't have to be the one sort of in this hot seat, if that makes you nervous, but sometimes it's just really listening to the other stories that open things up for you. So I can't say enough about Circle and coming back to this tradition. This is not new. This is not a new concept. And I think we've gotten away from it. So it's really a return to that. And isn't it nice to feel that we can regulate our nervous systems in a really connecting way? I think over the past 5 years or so, we've been isolated, we've been separated. And if we want to go back further through women's history, we have been separated and isolated as women because the powers that be in the world feared us in the Western world of women coming together to be too powerful, right? Well, that's ridiculous, because women coming together who have hearts of gold, who are mothers, like sometimes the fierce mother, sometimes the tender mother, like the crab, right? Like the Cancer sign that represents the crab, it's hard on the outside, soft on the inside, and it's the mother archetype. So the world has feared women coming together because of their superpowers when they unite. So we were separated, put in our own little corners, where of course we're going to doubt ourselves and have this kind of imposter syndrome because we didn't have our people. So now, in the times in which we live, it is so easy to come together. You don't even have to leave your house. That's the beautiful thing about this. And I'm sure you're part of other communities that meet online, on Zoom maybe, or in a Facebook group. And you're able to access this, but how do you choose which one? And how do we not turn into a dabbler? Is anyone a dabbler here? Because we can be part of this group and that group and this group and that group, and we're getting little bits, but then we have to synthesize it together ourselves. Like we're putting these little pieces of information together to try to create a whole picture. What I recommend is staying and focusing with one group, right? Go deep into the one thing. Have you ever felt like you've had too many irons in the fire, right? Too many irons in the fire. You feel like there's so much going on and you're getting distracted and your energy is kind of getting dispersed. To me, that's self-sabotage. And what I invite is that you choose a focus. It doesn't mean you don't want to be involved in the other things, whether they're hobbies, personal development, whatever the case may be, but go all in. Give yourself the gift of that, stay with it, and be consistent. Because when you're consistent, you're building trust with yourself. You're healing a trust wound. Women being separated was a trust wound. It's like, well, they don't trust me. Maybe I guess I can't trust myself if I have this power inside of me that's going to cause destruction and bad things. We start to question everything. So to build and flex that trust muscle, go all in, stay consistent, allow yourself to be supported, and definitely be in community, right? The secret sauce here that I'm getting at is not the lone wolfing. It's 100% community, commune and unity. You're communing in unity, right? We're coming together, like-minded people, to share, just like we are here in a way, right? We're here in this video. There's going to be different people watching, different comments coming in, and you're part of my community right now. And I believe that you were brought here for a reason. Just one other story that's coming to mind as we wrap up is I'm thinking about one of my clients, one of the women who's in Charmed, our sisterhood in our community. She came in to an event, one of our live events, and I happened to be giving away a prize of an oracle card reading. And we would sit down one-on-one. And I randomly, I don't think there's anything really random, right? But chose her, and she won the prize. So we met on Zoom, and she's like, oh no, I was hoping you wouldn't pick me. I was going, no. And then you picked me. And I said, why were you saying no? Don't you want to win a prize? We all want to win prizes, don't we? And she said, oh, I just didn't, I was feeling so poorly and I didn't want to have to share how bad I am feeling. And I didn't want to kind of bring the energy down for you or for anybody else. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting that someone thinks that they can't have flaws or problems going on, that would change the energy of the group, when really that's what I'm asking. I'm saying, just bring your whole self here. So we kind of talked a little bit about that. And then she said, well, I just had this horrible thing happen where not only one, but two of my horses, who were my best friends, passed away unexpectedly. And I felt so much grief, and I can still feel like such a heaviness in my heart when I share that now. And just that level of total grief. And part of the grief for me was feeling how alone she was in that, how she was just facing this heaviness on her own. And I know that's why I picked her intuitively, so that she could just have that little bit of support, that little extra. And she came to the event, so she was starting to look around and realizing, wait, maybe there's something here that I can explore that's going to help me. Like, I can't stand suffering. What am I going to do? And so we pulled the card, and it was super supportive for her. And she went away. I could tell she just looked lighter in her energy. And she has been coming to Circle ever since. And this was many years ago now. And I'm so grateful. And if you're watching, you know who you are, that you're part of this community. And she adds so much wisdom. And now what I've seen over the years is that she is bringing this leadership quality. You know, she came in to heal herself, and she has, and she's walked the walk. And so she can hold space with so much compassion. And when we've been through a lot of devastating, difficult, traumatic experiences in life, and we recover with resilience, doesn't that actually carve out this deep well of compassion? Doesn't it make you more compassionate? When you walk down the street, you can look at people in the eye and you can also think they have a story. Everybody has a story, right? So even if someone's a little grouchy to you or cuts you off in traffic, maybe you can draw on from that well of compassion and think, there's a story here. Something is happening for this person. And that is you as a leader holding space because you've been there, right? And you don't want other people to suffer because you remember really how that felt. So I hope this has been helpful today. What I really want you to take away is you don't have to do this alone. And actually, it's smarter not to do it alone. And I know you're smart. The smart thing is to have a community, to be receiving skills and tools to get the results you want, to pick one focus so you actually go for one specific result, and to not suffer. These are all tools and skills so that you feel happier and more joyful. And my friend, I have an opportunity for you to come into a free experience of Circle. If this is calling to you and you're thinking, yeah, I want to belong somewhere with sisters who have big hearts, we are doing a free session with the Lunar New Year. So the new moon, which is the beginning of a new lunar cycle. So we've got energies of fresh beginnings, plus in Chinese astrology, it's this portal, the Lunar New Year, and the year of the horse, and specifically the fire horse. So I thought we could come together and celebrate that together and have a session together where we'll be moving to change our state, right? I want you to be able to change your energetic state, work with your emotions in the moment, and come away feeling a lot lighter. So I always have music, I always have movement. I usually bring some oracle cards, and I like to do it on these auspicious, special, prosperous days of the year. So we're harnessing external energies from the universe and the goddess and the earth to really infuse ourselves with power and medicine at your best pace for whatever your needs are. So check down in the show notes and you can click on that link, grab your free spot. You're going to get a welcome email with all the details and the Zoom link. And I'm so excited to see you there. Next video, my friend, we're going to talk a little bit about feminine leadership. The Dalai Lama was the one who said, it's the Western women who will change the world. And I totally agree. And I want to be part of that, don't you? So let's talk about feminine leadership and what that looks like now. And also why it's important to have lots of women coming together in a collective way, right? When we gather together, we are more powerful, and how that can support us in up-leveling our own courage too. So pop on over to the next video and I will see you there. Remember to like and subscribe for more access to more wisdom.